The Air Creative Effects Collection 2 is finally here. Today we're going to talk about what's included, what's new, is it worth it, and is it for you? All that and more coming up right now. This is Al B. Let's get into it. Yes, sir. Now, the original Air Creative Effects Collection has been included in Pro Tools since version 8. It's considered to be the reference effects suite by some of the world's most respected audio professionals. If you're an Akai MPC user, you should be familiar with these. Now, the original collection had about 28 different plugins, whereas the Creative Effects Collection 2 has 40 different plugins. Now, 40 effects is a lot to cover in one video, so instead I'm going to show you a few of my favorite plugins from the collection and show you how I use them in my track. So the first plugin I'm going to cover in a little detail today is the Kill EQ. Now, just like all of these plugins, the name is pretty self-explanatory. You can use the Kill EQ to kill broad frequencies like your lows, mids, and your highs. In this example here, I'm only allowing through my mid-range frequencies, and I am killing my lows and I am killing my highs. Now, this is a good effect to use when you want to create intros or outros or any kind of transition, just to continue giving your track some movement. In this example, I have it applied to my master bus, which, maybe you shouldn't apply stuff to your master bus, but in this example, it is. I'm going to just show you how I use it. I have an automation effect here that's going to turn it off when I want it to turn off. So let's check it out. It's something that you want to use when you don't really need to do detailed EQing and you want some brick wall low and or high pass filters. And you can adjust the offset so that you can move what is considered to be your low range, mid range, or high range. You can move that. You can move them all together using the frequency offset, or you can move them individually by just moving what you consider to be your low frequency cutoff and your high frequency cutoff, and everything else in between will be treated as your mids. So again, this is the Kill EQ, or you can kill different ranges. All right, the next plugin we're going to talk about is the Flavor plugin. Now, the Flavor applies EQ simulations of radios, phones, tape machines, and more to change the timbre of your sound. So in this example, I'm using it on my guitar, and I have it set to the timbre of amp guitar. Now, there are a lot of different options in here. You have amp bass, amp guitar, dance mix, earbuds, boombox, megaphone, radio transistors. So you have a lot of different timbres that you can choose from. So let's see what my guitar sounds like before and after, and then I'm just going to play with some of the settings so you can get a better feel for what kind of harmonics and what kind of a different vibe and distortion you can add to your sounds with the Flavor plugin. So you can see it adds a lot of vibe, maybe even you could say a little lo-fi feel to it. But you can change the timbre here to a bunch of different stuff. For example, if I change it to boombox, it's going to give it a totally different sound. So I exaggerated some of the settings just so you can see what it can do. If you're familiar with RC20, this definitely gives you a lot of that same functionality, but in my opinion, this is better. It's a little bit simpler, yet more powerful at the same time. I have so many different timbres to choose from, and like all the plugins here in this collection, it's a very straightforward interface that I don't feel like I'm going to get lost in or confused in. So this is the Air Flavor effect. The next effect I'm going to show you all is the pumper effect. Now this is going to create a rhythmic pumping effect similar to what sidechain compression would do. But you have an assignable shape as well as an attack, hold, and release that you can set. Also, you can change the depth of the pump. You can also just click and drag this out so you kind of get a visual of where your release is. I'm going to show you how I use this on a vocal chop, and you're going to see the before and the after. Now the next effect I'm going to cover is the stutter effect, and just as the name implies, like all the plugins imply what they do, the stutter effect is going to give you a stutter in your sound where it's going to cut it off completely and then let it back on. So it's either on or off, on or off. Now this is different from the pumper effect because the pumper is more of a gradual turn on and turn off, so it's kind of more of a woo, 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 versus it being just on or off. This is what the stutter is doing, just on or off. Now you can change the different intervals, whether that's a quarter note, an eighth note, 16th note, so forth and so on. And of course, you're going to typically want it to be synced with the BPM of your project. So let's hear what this sounds like on my instrument bus before and after I have automation set up in the project, and you can see when it engages. So in this example, I use it as a transition from my verse into my hook, which you're going to hear the whole beat a little bit later. Stay tuned. So the next effect I'm going to cover is the half speed effect. And as the name implies, it's going to allow you to cut in half the speed of whatever audio you put through it. And you can set the length of how long you want it to actually loop back in. You have fade in and fade out, so you can change how smooth or how hard or sharp the transitions are when the plugin engages. And of course, you have high pass and low pass filters built into the plugin. Now here you have 1.5, 2, and 4, and this is basically where you would set how much you want to reduce the sound by. In my case, I have it reduced by 2 or halving it, right? Now, if you're familiar with halftime, this is going to be a very similar effect. Let's check out how I use it in my beat to transition from the hook into the verse, and you're going to see how it sounds before and after. All right, guys, the next plugin I'm going to cover is the Fuzz Wah plugin. Now, basically, this is going to let you add several different types of transistor-like distortion to your audio signal. So you have two different major components, that is the fuzz and the actual wah effect, and you can control how much of each one is there and then how much you actually blend them together. You can completely disable the fuzz and or the wah. You wouldn't want to disable both of them, but you can disable one or the other. You can change how much drive is happening. You can change the tone and different things like that. In my example, I'm using it on a guitar. I have found that this is best used on guitar or bass sounds, but it's distortion, so you can apply it wherever you choose. Let's check out what it sounds like on my guitar before and after. So as you can see, it adds some nice warm distortion to it, really giving that guitar a lot more oomph to it. Another cool thing is you can actually change the order of the signal. You can go from fuzz to wah, which is the default, or you can switch it and go from wah to fuzz, basically just changing the direction of the distortion. Now, there are a lot of other good plugins in this collection that I do not have time to show you all today, but hopefully you have started to get a feel whether or not this is a good fit for you. If this is something you want to check out, I will put a link on the screen and in the description to where you can get it. Please be sure to like and subscribe if you found the video helpful. Without further ado, let's check out the beat.